Perfect. I appreciate you all joining me. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen. Okay, is everybody seeing a PowerPoint? I'm going to take
Yes.
silence. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and continue to watch the participations list. But I'm just going to jump on in because I know that lunchtime can be quite busy for folks, and so I don't want to lose everybody to needing to get lunch. But thanks so much for joining. This is the webinar and Q&A series for the upcoming Community Childcare Capacity Building Cohort. And so at any point, please write down your questions. We'll have a lot of time at the end for answering a lot of questions for you. But I'm going to move quite quickly so that we can have a lot more time for that. So first off, if you don't know me yet, my name is Shelby Whalen. I'm what's called the Community Navigator for 0 to 5 Montana. That QR code at the bottom will take you directly to my scheduling link. Beyond this call, I'm always open to meeting with teams one-on-one just to talk through this series a little bit more and if it's applicable to your community work. And also just in general, I have one-on-one technical assistance that I provide for the 0 to 5 team. But for this specific call, we're going to speak to the cohort process. So as just a general overview, the 0 to 5 team is broken out into two different sections of our work around focused on children and early childhood work. So one section is the policy and advocacy avenue. So that's really built around all areas of early childhood development. And then the second section of our work is the program specific work. So this is under Montana Child Care Business Connect. And then intermingled between those two programs are, our wealth of innovations like the Family Forward Montana initiative and some different work groups and resources and data collection. So that's kind of how the network fits together. But the cohort, the community childcare capacity building cohort, that fits under the program side of our work. So just really uplifting communities to solving their own unique childcare challenges by promoting the increase of high quality childcare in their area, driven by community innovations and data informed work. So let's talk a little bit about the basics of what this work looks like. The application deadline, if you don't know yet, is February 28th at 5 p.m. That application can be found at that QR code, but also on the Montana Child Care Business Connect website under our events, and the event titled Community Child Care Capacity Building Cohort. That is the longest title ever. I hope that I don't have to say it too many more times today. But the cohort timeline is a year long, from March 2025 to March 2026. And in that time, we're really just working as peer mentors in this work, but then also with some training curriculum and some other resources that we'll talk a little bit later. But if you're asking yourself, like, who should really apply to this work is led by anybody in the community. So that means that this could be the Chamber of Commerce. This could be a childcare provider. This could really be a parent that is, concerned about their own family, but wants to support their neighbors. But this also means that it's a team effort. So community work is, if not impossible to do by yourself, like it's at least frustrating. So really looking for cross-sector teams to be able to support partnerships in the community and resources that are available within your own, focus area. So if we're talking about like what this process really is and what this means for the year as far as a timeline, this is a structured process for community development work. It was designed in part with our national partners, First Children's Finance. This is work that they do across the state or across the country. And so we're implementing this work at a micro version with the state of Montana. So it's broken out by 4 phases that communities will go through that kind of build towards action planning. That first phase is really around, I'm hoping that you're able to see this, and this bar is like not in your way. But that first phase is really around evaluation and building the foundation of your team. So things like creating your core team and just building out different relationships within your community, gathering local and new data. So by old data, I'm meaning like if the health department does a survey and they ask a couple of questions about childcare, how do we use that to still inform our team? And then new data. So for example, if a community is like, I have surveyed parents and they are done answering my questions, like let's talk about a population that maybe we haven't talked to. Like, have we talked to childcare providers about what it's like to be a provider in the area? Or have we talked to local businesses about what their workforce is looking like and how their benefit package might support their recruitment and retention efforts? Once we have collected a lot of data and resources from our team, we're going to move into the enhancement phase. So this is really around like building awareness and interest and input. So evaluating all of the data, which is a support system, support that I can offer. So communities that do disseminate some sort of survey or interviews, they can give me the raw data and I'm happy to create a report for communities. So that kind of takes away some of the capacity needed to have like a really readable report for the general public. But then presenting that data to the community to really show people like this is what's happening in our area. We're seeing an opportunity for growth. This really gives an opportunity for community members to step up, not only for input on solutions, but also resources. So that's kind of where we see a lot of the idea generation happening. Now we're moving into the establishment phase, which is around the planning. So this can be, doing a feasibility study if it makes sense for your community, really understanding, okay, of our giant brainstorm, what ideas are, going to actually solve the issue that we are identifying in our data. What things do we have capacity and resources for to really highlight like this is our goal moving forward, but then creating some goals around how to make that happen through an action plan document. Then our final stage, which actually in a lot of scenarios happens after this cohort process, is really around this action and implementation stage. So this is where a lot of communities move from the cohort process into one-on-one technical assistance from me or to other resources on the Montana Child Care Business Connect team to make their project, that much more developed. So if we're thinking, okay, that was a lot, like what does time commitment look like, Shelby? This seems like it's a full-time job and I already have a full-time job. The short and sweet of it is that this work really does depend on your guys' community and the commitment to the progress moving forward. So this process can be as intensive as you're able to have it, but then also it can be quite fast-paced and involved if you have the capacity for it. But let's take a little bit of a closer look as to like the reality of what our team will be asking of you and what maybe the community will be asking of you. So as far as our team, I do ask that communities meet with me regularly, whether that's on a monthly basis or a bi-monthly basis. Virtually is the platform that we'll be operating under, but it can also be at whatever duration makes the most sense for your schedule. So it could be a quick 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. It could be much longer or much more frequently, just depending on the type of support that you work best with. I do ask for a couple of reporting pieces just to make sure that like the work is happening and that we're not like, leaving you out on an island by yourself and that it's doing what we think this progress or program does. So we ask for a midpoint activity report. That form is provided. It's like 10 questions long. It'll take you like 15 minutes. We ask for a final summary report. That's also like 10, 11 questions long. It might take you 20 minutes if you're, feeling very like expressive. And then we ask for a completed action plan. And while this is a process that's done with your community team, we do see that a lot of this is quite intuitive, that communities, feel that this process is quite natural to do. And all of that is done in collaboration with me. So I'm always here to be a resource for you. Some other commitments within this process is to consistently meet with your core team. So that is just really maintaining communication throughout the process. That could be in person, that could be through email, that could be through a newsletter, whatever works for your team. But just maintaining like progress and opportunities for community members to engage with you. We also ask that you gather existing and new data. Again, thinking that, as far as capacity, we want to make that as easy as possible for you. And then engaging in communities in conversation. So again, similar to number one, if that has to be virtual, if that can be in person, that's great. But like whatever is going to make the most sense for just really like letting the community know what you're working on and how they can be involved. We do offer 9 roundtable cohort discussions, which are broken out by about 30 minutes of content-driven work. So that would be kind of the training aspect of it around data collection and collaboration and project development work. But then the last part is really learning from other community partners that are doing this work with you. So from community to community, learning from each other and maybe troubleshooting challenges together or celebrating successes. Those are eligible for ECP credit. So if you have childcare providers that are leading your work or are on your team, if they attend those calls, they will receive ECP credit for that time as a thank you for participating in those virtual calls. We do ask that at least 2 team members join those calls, at least one of those being somebody who can share about your community work. So in that like 30-minute time to be able to share. And that kind of moves us into our number 5, just a willingness to share successes, struggles, resources within the group in meetings and in our shared space, which is canva.com or canvas.com if you're familiar with that platform. So what can I really get out of it? Like, it sounds like there's some training. It sounds like there's some networking. So what really does this look like? We do see a really huge benefit in cross-state networking. So, being able to pair similar communities together. That can happen within this iteration of the cohort, but also with the relationships that we've built with the previous 2 cohorts. So this is now the 3rd iteration of this work. And then through our shared learning space, Canvas, being able to have a space for document sharing, for the recordings to be posted, to be referenced later, to have discussions with people and really work through, what's happening in your area. Access to project development resources and libraries in that space and through myself. So this is, and this kind of goes into the one-on-one technical assistance and accountability, but it's my job to build out resources that are helpful for you. So if you're in this process and you're like, I'm not really seeing that this resource is in the library, and I'm not really sure if this exists anywhere else, that's on me to help you find that or create that with you. So that's like a piece of this work that can be a huge help for teams. Also an accountability partner, just somebody that's able to check in with you and troubleshoot things. And if things don't go to plan, like how we mitigate that and pivot to continue progress growth. We also look at, like I mentioned, the support around analyzing and compiling data collection with you to kind of cut down on the capacity that kind of takes up. And then building connections statewide with partners and resources, as this is an ever-changing landscape of early childhood professionals and different resource groups, like really how to navigate that system while trying to aid in the development. And more. Like I kind of mentioned, this is an opportunity for us to engage with you all and continue to build out services that are helpful for you. So if a group, identifies a need and I can work on that, like that's going to be shared with the rest of the cohort as well. So you might be asking, what about funding? The previous 2 cohorts did have access to mini grants to do some of this work, but that was when 0 to 5 or Montana Child Care Business Connect was on a much more robust funding program. And this time around, we just have a little limited funding to be able to offer mini grants. However, my caveat to that is always that there's no guaranteed funding yet. It is in my job description to help you guys through that project planning. And I know that that work is hard to do without funding. So I'm looking for grants currently, whether that's 0 to 5 applies as an entity and distributes mini grants to the cohort participants, or if that comes from me and my team helping you apply for mini grants that we've identified that feel like they could fit the program direction of your work. So no funding yet, but it's my goal that by the end of this cohort that there is some financial support for this work. So what could really be the outcome? A lot of people think like, well, I don't really want to build a childcare facility. That's not the case or the expectation from our team at all. So this is community-driven work. It's data informed. So we don't expect you to know exactly what the community might want. So as a couple of examples that have come out of previous cohorts, that's a list. So that includes establishing an early childhood coalition, opening and expanding childcare facilities, creation of childcare provider networks, so just fostering more connections among providers, really comprehensive media campaigns around workforce and recruitment opportunities. And then we've also seen communities that leave this process with just really comprehensive data collection, and that being the catalyst for other organizations to alter the way that they provide services to the community. So if you leave this program with really great data, that's going to be a win in my book because you're going to be further through your process than when you started. But that's just like a couple of examples. I'll also point out that we have had some really successful cohorts in the past. So this is a map of all Montana Child Care Business Connect services so far across the state, or at least back when it was compiled in 2024. But over the course of our previous granting of funds, we had 14 communities participate in the cohorts. But you can kind of see the spread is mostly on the western side of the state. So really looking for finding communities that are wanting to work with us, and we can expand our reach in that work. So we also love to do evaluations of our work. We want this to be something that you guys can bank on it being at least minorly helpful for your community. I think that it's a really amazing program, but in our evaluations for our previous cohorts, we found that participants established more childcare facility spots. They saw an increase in collaboration among partnerships. They saw an increase in data collection capacity and confidence. They recognized they saw a recognition of childcare need in their area and increased credibility and visibility of their mission. So really positive feedback from previous participants. So I always like to share that out to folks. And you probably noticed a couple of quotes in there. Those are from previous participants. So very grateful for their feedback and being able to communicate this process and what it meant for them. So let's take a look at the application. I think a lot of anxiety around putting in an application for something comes from like maybe just not really knowing what it looks like, especially when we're thinking about supports or grants in the early childhood realm. Some applications can be really cumbersome, and so I just want to walk through the application so you know what you're looking at, so you can anticipate maybe some of the questions that we're going to be asking, and I can talk through maybe how to craft your application to be the best that it can be. So first off, we're going to ask us some preliminary information about your core team lead. We are going to ask you what you consider your community radius. So whether that you want to focus on just your town or a county or a tribal nation or multiple towns and multiple counties, but really like what is your focus area that you want to cover? And then is your radius considered a childcare desert? So that link will take you to the DLI report around childcare desert status. So you can kind of see, oh, okay, I follow within like this county So that county is considered a childcare desert, which means that they meet less than one third of the demand for childcare. If you're unsure, like if you're in multiple counties and you're not really sure how you fit into that, just say unsure. That's something that we can work through later. Um, as far as a couple of questions, just to understand a little bit of the need of your community and what might be your focus areas. So we ask, what are your top three childcare areas of improvement? So if that's a limited infant care, if that's, a lack of childcare facilities, if that's, miscommunication among services, or you can click other and you can just give me a rundown of what you're seeing, but you're not really sure what category it might fit in. And then we ask that you commit two people to attending our monthly or semi-monthly, because there's 9 out of the 12 virtual calls, yes or no. This is the team collaborator kind of mapping tool a little bit here. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. We do ask you that you identify a team lead. This is really just so that we have a point of contact person and that somebody that I can continuously reach out to see that the work is continuing further through whatever stage you guys are in their process. But we do ask for you to identify at least three additional team members that are going to be a part of your core team. It's beneficial if you're thinking out of your initial inner circle. So say a business wants to apply for this grant. I would love to see other cross-sector partnerships rather than three staff people at the same organization. But this could really be so diverse. Like it could be a parent that is just representing the community as a parent. This could be the Chamber of Commerce, like I mentioned. This could be somebody from your early childhood coalition. This could be somebody from your local bank or business, but really just like a spread of resource in your initial team. A part of the first few weeks of this work, we'll look at growing those teams, but that's our intention, is that we see some cross-sector partnership. We asked a couple of just random questions about like your progress so far. So has your team gathered any community impact data or input data? That's not a demerit if you haven't. It's just really seeing where you are in this process. And then what your key motivators are for participating in this program. If that's, just need some support around strategic planning, if I'm looking for tailored technical assistance, networking with other communities, but just really looking at the priorities that you might want to focus on. And then, is there anything else that you'd like to know about that you'd like to let us know about your team or community? So this is really your free question to let me know about, your community, what's driving you towards this work, what work has maybe been successful in the past, and what you're looking forward to. If you'd like, you have some project goal ideas. And then is space to upload relevant documents to your project. Again, not those last two questions are not required. So if you had some data collection that you wanted to share with us, that'd be great. Or if you had some write-up about previous work that you've done or previous minutes of your group meeting, that would be awesome. But there's no expectation that that has to be filled out that way. Okay, and then going to go back to my presentation to really just share with you that that's my contact information. So again, that's the application link. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about what this work might feel like for your community, or if you have specific questions about like if this is applicable for me. Again, I'm always happy to meet one-on-one with folks via phone, Zoom chat, Microsoft Teams, what have you, or just over email. So reach out. I'm going to stop my share and just be here for any questions that anybody might have.
Hi, Shelby. I have a quick question. It's Miriam. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi.
Yes, I can hear you. Hi.
Um, I was just wondering about the team formation. We did apply and we have like a few people that we've talked and asked about wanting to join the team, but it's nothing that any of them have totally been like 100% yes, we're in. How does that work as we go through the process? Say we are able to be in the cohort. Can the teams kind of change a little bit? Is that all
A
right?
100%, yes. So teams are going to fluctuate. That's kind of the nature of community development work is like fluctuation. So yeah, as people join, if things come up and job descriptions get more complicated or capacity changes and resources have to step in to fill roles, like that is the nature of this work and is completely okay. My expectation, or I guess like hope would be that like while people leave that we would be working either that's like with your team and myself or within your team to fill in that those like roles so that you're not doing this work by yourself. But of course teams can change. That might just be something that we update about in regular check-ins.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Hi, Shelby. I'm with
Hi.
Hi, I'm with Eastern Plains Economic Development, so I'm just listening in. I'm
Great.
in Glendive. I know we have a childcare issue here for sure. I worked at
Mhm.
the hospital prior to this job for
Mhm.
7 years up until last fall, and providers that were coming to us, in particular, the last one that I helped recruit. They had 4 kids, and
Mhm.
the youngest were twins that were 4, and there was no daycare. I
Yeah.
mean, there was no availability. So I know we have a major issue in our town.
Mhm.
You did answer some of my questions, and I'm
Cool.
wondering, I guess one question is it more common for, say, the chamber or economic development to lead, or is it just kind of whoever we can? Would you recommend a certain way to do this, or whoever
Not
is?
necessarily. Yeah,
Okay.
not necessarily because while I've had Chamber of Commerce lead this work, it really just comes down to like the capacity for the person to be in contact with me. So I've had parents lead this work just
Okay.
because like it fit into their schedule to be my point person.
Sure.
It also that point person can change. So for example,
Okay.
some community groups in the previous cohorts, they started with one person and then as like job descriptions changed or again like their capacity changed, they were
Mhm.
able to like hire somebody on to be a project manager for this specific work or just shift roles to somebody to take that work further, and that's all flexible with us too. It just really just like updating the team, but yeah, it's all flexible.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and just to your point, Jamie, about like, seeing providers in these areas and like needing support, for just folks, if you're looking for some light inspiration, we have some case studies on our website. Two of those groups participated in previous cohort type work. So one of those was Shoto. They participated in the first cohort initiative, and then Baker Community actually participated in a previous pilot. So similar work, but like in a previous pilot. And when Baker started, they had no childcare in their entire community, which is like, Vaughn Zanko, who ran that work, he in his case study said that like this is the space of this is a location the size of New Jersey with no childcare. And I think that just gives me chills every single time. But then, of course, both of those communities now have childcare, whether that's through Head Start or soon to be opening or private business childcare since being part of this community work. So those are some things that I really look to as success stories.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Baker is one of the counties that we serve. And so, of course, I'm just getting in on a lot of this, but I've heard the great success story that Vaughn and his team got going down there. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
been it's been wonderful. So
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
that
Love
is
that.
very inspiring. Yeah. And we have childcare in Glendive. It's just
Mhm.
limited,
Right.
so
Right.
it is an issue. And we have Head Start, but we're a small town, always trying to be a big town, and we just
Yes.
flex in this goofy space all the time where resources don't quite match the population, but the population isn't that big, but it's just big enough that we're always stretched everywhere. So,
Somewhere. Yeah.
yeah.
And and that's really what I see in a lot of communities too, that like the challenges are very unique. So some communities are going to be like, well, we have zero childcare providers, so that's going to be the avenue that we're working with. And others are like, we have an abundance of childcare providers. And in fact, our workforce for early childcare professionals is really like the need for our push. Or maybe it's just that like we have a lot of childcare providers, we have really robust employment for those programs, but we have a lack of kids enrolling. And so really pushing for like understanding what parents can, get involved with care, afford care, what care they're looking for. So there's like a whole web of different directions that people can go in this work. Awesome. I love being the person that can take a deep breath in silence and wait for questions to pop up. So I will be here if you have any additional questions or if things are, um, you know, you'd like some time to work through them. But of course, as we are kind of dwindling through time, if you're not really sure yet, if you have a question or while you're going through the application, something pops up, always again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm a resource for you, free and available all the time. So, yeah, by this call ending does not necessarily mean that your questions can't be answered. Also, if you can hear my dog snoring in the background, that's on that.
I have three of them snoring right now, so I keep muting.
Yeah, it's like noon to like 2 is like a really solid nap time. And
Yep.
then from like 3 to 4, when I have like a couple of like good quality meetings, is when my dog Dolly, she's a golden doodle, is like, this is my time to shine. I'm gonna go get my loudest squeak toy. Um, yeah, it's really an all day, every day thing.
Yeah, can't stop
Always
them.
something. Also,
Only
I don't
been
know that.
kind of been outside, so they're tired. We have a heated garage, so they've been in there because it's very cold.
Oh,
But I had
yes.
so many meetings where I had to talk today that I'm like, I can't have you in here. I know the
Yes.
UPS guy is going to show up and the mailman. So they were outside.
Yes.
So they came in, they're exhausted because they've had a lot of fresh air. So they're
Oh,
fat.
I love that. I know it makes me think that I should have like puppy daycare
Yeah,
at some point
yeah,
because she would love it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Also, I
Well,
don't know that I mentioned, but I'm in Butte, but of course my services go statewide. So just as like a little bit of a beacon of where I'm at.
sounds great. Well, I'm going to hop off because I do have
Yeah.
to get ready for one more meeting for the day.
Good
And
luck.
but thank you for all that great information. I'm going to share this with our director, and I have no doubts we'll be signing up. And I'm glad you answered the questions of who runs this because I know we're a little bit at capacity, but we could
Yeah.
probably wrangle the people. So, so that'll just be our position, I think, with it. So that's
Great.
perfect.
Great. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to it and I really appreciate you hopping on. All right, Kari, it's just you and I. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to let them fly. If not, I'll just be here.